Hello, thanks for taking a look in. As it says in the title, this is quite an interesting class in the sense that this class is entirely on the mat-based, not getting up, not standing up, and then coming down and then getting back up again, as with most of my other classes through the sun salutations and vinyasa flows. And the reason for that is because some people have asked me, they said, I just can't get up, can't get off the floor, love to do yoga, but simply cannot get up and it's putting me off. So hopefully this is something that's accessible for most people. And bear in mind that it does take about 100 muscles in the body to get ourselves up from a grounded position to a standing position. It's not an uncommon thing to be challenged in order to get up. And people that suffer with issues with balance as well, they don't like getting up, obviously, because there's a fear of falling. So entirely on the mat, and we're going to do a couple of these actually, because there's still quite a lot of postures of movements we can do, which are beneficial to the body and they're mindful as well, so they're beneficial to the mind through a practice on the mat. This one's going to start lying down, and again, with any of these movements, if it just feels too much for you, then don't do it. Simply work with what you've got in your body. But we will start lying down on our backs, and as you come down nice and slowly on your back, rest your head and shoulders on the floor, bend your knees, and then bring your heels close to your bottom with your knees hip width apart. Rest your hands down the side of the body, looking up at the ceiling. I'm going to take a couple of moments here just to feel grounded, feel the touch points of your body and the floor beneath you. And to do that, just feel that connection. Start with the feet, start with the toes, wriggle your toes, then plant your toes down. Feel the touch points in the knuckles of the big toe, the little toe, the heels, maybe the outer edge of the foot. And just feel that connection with the ground beneath you. And then come moving up into the back of your pelvis. Feel the natural curvature of your lower back as it lifts away from the spine, from the floor. The spine lifts away from the floor, and then the pressure of your shoulders and the tops of your arms into the floor. Pressure of the elbows, any touch points in your hands, and the back of the head resting on the floor. So identify that sensation of ground and of connection with the ground beneath you. First thing we're going to do is gently move the spine. So we're going to do some pelvic rotations. I never used to know what these were when I was starting out doing some of the online stuff. So basically what we're doing here is putting our tummy button into our spine. This pulls the spine down into the floor, flattens the lower back onto the floor, tucking the tailbone under as the pelvis rotates backwards. And then as we breathe in and push the pelvis into the floor and arch our lumbar spine, where you can slide your hand under the gap in your lower back. That arch in your lumbar spine, that's your pelvis rotating forwards. And just to clarify this, as we rotate our pelvis backwards, as we pull our tummy button in, flatten our lower back, that's pelvis moving posteriorly, so to the back. And then we arch our lower back as we breathe in and push our pelvis into the floor. That's the pelvis rotating forwards anteriorly. Just to sort of clarify that, because sometimes teachers, they throw a whole lot of jargon at people and it can be misleading. So basically, the easiest way I find anterior and posterior is if your arse is out, arse beginning with an A, that's an anterior rotation. Okay, an anterior rotation is rotating forwards. Your bum goes out, you get that little gap in the lower back, and then you flatten your lower back on the floor. All the time I've been rabbiting on, hopefully you've been moving your pelvis forwards and backwards, which is loosening up the tight multifidi muscles, the tight muscles around your lumbar discs. Okay, so it's a great movement to do first thing in the morning, even in bed. Try to keep your knees parallel when you do it, just to gently rock the pelvis forwards and backwards. Okay, and then come to a nice and released neutral position where there's no control over your pelvis whatsoever. With a slow breath in, arms down the side of the body. Draw the arms up nice and high, all the way behind you as you reach up, lengthen through the shoulders, and as you breathe out, bring the hands down to the side. Nice movement to breath. Thinking about reaching up, stretching up, lengthening through the upper body here, and then breathing down, bringing the hands down. As you bring the arms up and back, your shoulders are going into what we call flexion. Sounds really weird, I know, but that's what it is. And exhaling, coming all the way back down. Come all the way up again, just feeling that sensation of breath to movement and down. So this time, rest your hands down on the floor with a slow breath in. Push into the floor with your feet. See if you can lift your pelvis off the floor. Even a little way is good. And as you breathe out, lower your pelvis onto the floor. Now pull your tummy button in. Flatten your lower back, and next breath in, lift your pelvis off of the floor. And breath out, keeping your tummy button pulled in, lower down, pelvis lands on the floor. Keeping your tummy button pulled in, breath in, lifting your pelvis off of the mat into bridge. And a breath out, come back down. Excuse me, and one more. Breath in, tummy button in, drawing the pelvis off of the floor. And come back down. Okay, good. Straighten your legs out, lift your arms up above the head, big long body stretch, stretch up, reach up. And then do the hip shifts here. So you stretch to the left side of the body, so the toes go away and the fingers go away, and then alternate across to the right side. So just shifting from side to side, and that nice stretch of the body. These movements just really just start loosening, softening the joints before we start some of the bigger movements. Once you've done that a few times, really nice side bend is with your arms still above you. Walk your feet off of the mat to the left, and then shuffle your shoulders to the left. Reach your arms up to the left of the mat. You get that really nice side bend. Supported side bend, quite safe. Back is supported. You feel that stretch down just above your right hip, just into the right rib cage. Take some breaths into that right rib cage as you feel the ribs expand. And then shuffle back to center. Nice big long stretch just to lengthen through the spine again, realign the spine and release, and then shuffle your feet off to the other side. As you shuffle to the other side, shuffle your shoulders, then come into this side bend, reaching up with the fingers, pointing away with the toes, feeling that stretch down the other side of the body. Just making a note, noticing if it's the same as it is, the sensations, the feelings as the first side, if it's slightly different, slightly tighter, slightly looser, just being connected with what's going on in your body, keeping your mind here in the practice, moving your body all the way back. Another big long stretch to lengthen through the spine again once more. Really feeling quite tall, quite long here now on the mat. Okay, release, bending your knees, bring your heels up towards your bottom. Knees are parallel, hip width apart. Float your hands down the side of the body. Now we're going to do that bridge, but bridge with arms. We're going to put it all together. So first thing to do is pull your tummy button into your spine, flatten your lower back. With a slow breath in, push your pelvis away from the mat, and then let the arms float up. With that breath in, reaching all the way back, stretching back with your arms as they land on the floor. When you're ready to breathe out, float your arms up on the breath out, and then lower your arms, your pelvis to the floor, keeping your navel pulled in, rolling down through the lower back. Breath in, push into the mat with the floor, keeping the navel pulled in into bridge, floating the arms up, bridge with arms, reaching backwards, going for length here. And breath out, floating the arms up, lowering everything down, keeping your navel pulled in as you roll down through the lower back. We're going to do 2 more of these with your breath. Nice, smooth movement, synchronized to the breath. So keeping your mind in focus on the breath, the movement. And quality of movement, really feeling that lower back roll down through to the floor as you pull your spine in. Last one, lifting up, reaching up, and then reaching back. Really, the body's going into a really lovely stretching routine. You can do this, and anytime you want to stop this practice, you can, if you've had enough. When you come after that last one, draw your knees up into your chest, reach up, grab hold of your knees, squeeze and release your knees here, just to massage through the discs. Okay, and then dropping your right foot to the floor, straighten out your left leg. Now, your left leg might be bent, you might be really tight, but find a position where you can find some tension in the back of the leg. Grab the hands around the back of the leg somewhere, and then draw that leg into tension and back it off. And do this a few times. You can rest your head on the floor while you do this, drawing that leg back to tension wherever it is, however straight or bent it is. Third time, hold it in tension, and then pushing the back of the knee away, pulling the toes into the shin if that's there for you, but find some tension in the back of the leg. And when you find that tension, take 4 breaths. And with that breath, you slowly release into that tension. The technique we use in yoga is ocean breath, which is basically slightly constricting the throat to introduce a little bit of resistance in the breath on the in and the exhale. This creates a very gentle sighing sound, if you like. And this sighing sound is a way we manipulate our nervous system to release tensions in the body. Releasing tensions in the muscles and the tendons allows that stretch to go a little bit deeper. 4 breaths here, however long, however short your breath pattern is, and then release that leg to the floor. Just take a moment just to feel the difference from one side to the other, and then lift up the other legs. The other leg's going to be quite stiff coming into this. So reach your hands up, grab hold of the back of the leg. It's not moved as well as the other leg. So we take the gliding stretches to loosen off the tissue in the back of the leg. Taking about 3 of these. On the breath out, you draw the leg in. Inhale it off. 3rd time, draw it in. It could be bent, could be straight, whatever it is for you. Put your toes into your shin, generate more tension in your body. 4 nice ocean breaths here, slightly constricting your throat. Using those nice, slow exhalations to release tension and stay focused on the sensations in the leg. How does it compare to the other leg? How do you feel here? If there's tightness here, be respectful of your leg, compassionate with your body, not forcing it. All we're doing is loosen off stickiness in the tissues and the joints. So when you've had 4 breaths here, come all the way back down to the floor. Bring both knees up into the chest and squeeze and release your knees here. Taking your feet out to the edges of the mat, take the arms away from the body. We're going to gently start rolling the hips from side to side here, just allowing the knees to float down to the floor. We call this windscreen wiper in our legs. Feel that movement in your hips. You can do this with the breath. As you inhale the knees back to center, exhale them down to one side. Inhale them back to center, exhale them back to the other side. When you get into that nice rhythm with the breath, turn your head in the opposite direction to your knees. So you get a nice twist through the spine, gently massaging, manipulating your discs, gently massaging, manipulating your hips. It's a lovely movement. It's a great movement to do first thing in the morning before you get out of bed. Why not? Let's get the joints moving. Let's get them opening up nice and softly before we apply decent pressure to them. Okay, good. And then come to a nice neutral position. Draw both knees up into the chest and hold them here. Arms are out nice and wide. Okay, what we're going to do is lower or take our knees down to the left side. Take them all the way down to the side. So we're lying on our side, bringing that right arm all the way nice and straight over the top as it comes all the way down to rest on our left forearm. We can see it in front of us. Breath in here. As you breathe it out, lift that right arm up. Take it all the way back, following it as it goes with your eyes as you turn your head and look all the way back as it lands on the floor, or as close as it can come. And then slow breath in, come all the way back. Exhaling all the way behind you. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. When you come all the way this time, draw the knees back to center, take a breath in here, and then lower the knees all the way down to the other side. As they come down to this side, draw that left arm up, bring it up nice and straight above you, and then down, let it rest on your right forearm. Inhale here. On the exhale, turn to the left. Take that left arm all the way out as far as it will go. Inhale, come all the way back, looking all the way across to your right arms. Exhale. Twisting through the spine. Inhale. And exhale one more. Inhale, come all the way down on your side. Okay, from your side here, we're going to gently take our right hand to the floor and push into the floor and gently come all the way around onto our fronts into a 4-point tabletop position. So your shoulders, arms are straight, your wrists are under your shoulders, your knees are under your hips, and your back is quite flat here. And we'll continue the movement through the spine. So with a breath in, allow your tummy to descend to the floor, point your bottom upwards, lift your head upwards. As you breathe out, round your back. Drop your head, pull your tummy button in. Okay, cat-cows, similar to what we were doing with bridge and with pelvic rotations, just gently massaging through the lower back. Nice and gently at first. Of course, you can skip any of these movements if you wish, if you want to go straight into bigger movements and you've got your own yoga practice. I always like cat-cows because of the goodness they do to our spine. Okay, once you've done that a few times, come to a nice neutral position. And then we're going to take some circles with our pelvis here, allowing the knees to roll around on the mat, assuming you've got good cushioning beneath your knees. You can always double roll a mat if it's really hard surface, and then go the other way. Come to a neutral position. Stay with your hips where they are. Walk the hands forwards, as far forward as you can, to get a really nice puppy stretch here. Arms are straight, arms are out in front of us, just slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Let your head and your chin come towards the floor. Feel that tension in your shoulders. Really nice stretch here. And then walk the hands backwards. Okay, come to the back of your mat. We're going to come up onto our knees and then lift our body upright into a mountain position or tabletop position. If we were stood, it would be called mountain position. Nice and upright through the body here. Lift up through the crown of the head, soften the shoulders. With a slow breath in, draw the arms up nice and high, reach up, go for height. And with a slow breath out, lower the hands down either side of the body. With a breath in, lift the hands up nice and high. With a slow breath out, side bend to the right. Take the right hand down to the side of the body as the left hand comes over the top, keeping your shoulders on top of your hips. Feel that stretch through the ribs. Breath in, lift up, stay looking forwards. Breath out, side bend to the other side. Nice, gentle movement, just feeling the body stretch and open up. Breath in, lift both hands up. On a breath out, we're going to twist to the right. We're taking the left arm in front and the right hand behind, keeping the hips where they are. Take a couple of breaths here. And breath in, turn to the front. And a breath out, turning now to the left and extending the arms out this side as best you can. Breath in, lift up. On a breath out, bend the knees a little bit, float the hands down to the floor. When your hands land on your floor, bring your shoulders on top of your wrists in tabletop. With a breath in, tummy goes down, head lifts, tailbone goes back up. Stepping the hands forwards a little bit. With a breath out, sit your hips back towards your heels into child pose, letting your head come towards the floor. Take a big breath into the tummy here. Lift your head up, look up. As you look up and breathe out, come forwards, lowering your whole body to the floor, tops of the feet come on the floor. Hands are either side of the ribs. With a slow breath in, draw the chest away, lifting up into a cobra position, striking snake, looking down at the floor, drawing the shoulders back, a little bit of a back bend as best you can. Breath out, come all the way back down to the floor. With a slow breath in, push up onto your knees with your elbows tucked into your ribs. And with a breath out, sit your hips back towards your heels. With a slow breath in, slowly drawing the hands back, come to an upright position in tabletop where we started. And then another breath in, lift the hands up nice and high. On a breath out, drop the hands behind the back. Interlace the fingers behind you, nice straight arms. With a breath in, chest opener as you draw the shoulder blades towards each other in the back and look up. Taking a couple of breaths here. These nice static movements, stay breathing, but feel that sensation of tension in your body. Try to loosen where you can. You're not moving, you're static, but you're still working really hard. Breath in here. And then as you breathe out, slowly bend the knees, bring your chest forwards if you can with your straight arms. Allow your chest to come forwards, bring your straight arms up. And then release your hands to the floor. Walk your hands forward into tabletop. Breath in, tummy down, head lifts, look up. Breath out, step the hands forward, sink the hips back to the heels. Breath in here, and then lift your head up after the end of that breath in. And when you're ready to breathe out, come forwards and down to the floor. When you've reached the end of that breath out, elbows tuck in. Breathe in, peel the chest away from the floor. Breathe out, release to the floor. Breathe in, push up onto your knees. And breathe out, sit the hips back towards the heels as you lengthen, extend, stretch through the upper body. Slow breath in as you draw the hands, slide the hands backwards, come up onto your knees in Thunderbolt. Inhale the hands up nice and high. Palms come together, palms come down onto your chest. Okay, so that little sequence is a grounded sun salutations, breath to movement, really nice to move the body, flex, extend the spine. It's a great thing to do, breath to movement. It's a mindful process and it's really doing the whole body good. Okay, from here, we're going to step, and we will come back to that. We're going to step our left foot to the top of the mat and with our right knee grounded, push down into the left foot, steady yourself on the left knee, pull our tummy button in. With a breath in, lift the hands up. Above the head, palms come together. With a breath out, maybe bend through that front knee as you stretch through the hip flexor here. This part of your body here getting a really nice stretch. Stay here for 5 breaths. Looking forward, pulling the tummy button in, reaching up with the fingers, but soften the shoulders. Try not to shrug our shoulders. And just feeling that sensation of tension in your body. Okay, release your hands down the side of the body. Take your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, draw your arms back as the chest lifts. You'll feel that again, that tension in your shoulders, in your chest. Stay here, a couple more breaths. And then release, lift the hands up nice and high. Exhale, take your hands down to the floor. Okay, we're going to come all the way back into tabletop. Walk our hands backwards, slowly come up onto our knees. Breath in, lift the hands up. Breath out, float the hands down to the floor. Tabletop, shoulders on top of wrists. Breath in, tummy down, head lifts. Breath out, walk the hands forward, stick the hips back to the heels. Take a big breath in here, look up, and as you breathe out, come all the way forwards onto your fronts. And breath in, cobra pose as you peel the chest away, looking straight down in front of you, drawing the shoulders back. Breath out, come to the floor. Breath in, push up onto your knees. Breath out, sit your hips back onto your heels. Breath in, slowly come all the way up to mountain thunderbolt, bringing the hands above the head. And exhale the hands down towards the floor as you lean forward and step your right foot to the top of the mat. Okay, grounded down through that right foot, push into the right foot. As you come up, right, draw your tummy button in. Inhale, both hands up, palms come together. Exhale, bend through that front knee as you lean into crescent lunge. Looking forwards, keeping your core engaged. Again, softening the shoulders, but reaching the fingertips up. Breath in here, and then release your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, draw your arms back, chest opener again, pulling your tummy button in, leaning in still, feeling that nice stretch in the upper body, as well as your hip flexor. Okay, release the hands, inhale, lift the hands up, exhale, float the hands down to the floor. Stepping that knee back into say a tabletop and then sit the hips back into child this time. Look up between the hands. With a breath in, we're going to come all the way up into tabletop. And then come all the way back down into child. Breath in, lift up into tabletop. This time from tabletop, we're going to float the right hand up to the side of the head as the left leg lifts into a balancing cat. Going to stay here. Just take your time here to find the balance. Find that point where you can just hold the balance, look down at the floor. Breathe nice and softly, but at the same time, reaching forwards with your right fingers and reaching backwards with your left toes. And breathe. It doesn't matter if you wobble a little bit, if you come out of this, come back into it if you can, even just for a breath. Just build that strength in the body, strength in the core, and then slowly come back to tabletop. Take a breath in here. As you breathe out, sit the hips back into child pose, keeping the hands glued to the floor, stretching back through the spine. Take a slow breath in into tabletop. Breath out all the way back onto child pose. Next breath in, we go into that other side. So as you breathe into tabletop, continue the movement with the left hand floating up to the side of the head as the right leg lifts up. Point to the toes, point to the fingers, looking down at the floor. Gauging your core muscles and noticing the balance on this side
reaching forwards with the fingers, reaching backwards with the toes, really feeling strong in this posture, but keeping the breath nice and smooth. And release to the floor. Okay, slowly sit the hips back into child, and then slowly come all the way up onto your knees into Thunderbolt, drawing the arms up nice and high. Breath in, exhale the hands down to the floor, shoulders on wrist. Breath in, tummy down, head lifts, tailbone goes back. Step the hands forward, breath out, sit back into child. Look up between the hands, take a big breath in here, and then slowly come all the way down onto your fronts. As you come down onto your fronts this time, we're going to take the hands down the side of the body. Tops of the feet come onto the mat. With a breath in, lift the chest away, and the legs, if they'll come off of the floor a little bit, drawing the arms down the side of the body into locust. Take a few breaths here. It's an intense movement, tense posture, really working the strength in your lower back, really giving your lower back some tender loving care. You won't think it, but it is. We build the spinal erector muscles and the longissimus muscles in our lower back. We protect our lower back. We build that strength, that integrity of our core muscles to protect our lower back. We're squeezing those bulging discs back into the spine where they need to be, and we build that protection mechanism for our backs, for our spines. Release to the floor, hands either side of your rib cage, push up onto your knees. Sit back into child and feel that release in your lower back as you draw the hips backwards. Hands are grounded. Breathing into your belly and the breath to go down into the tummy. Okay, and then come back up. Drop down onto your forearms, bring your shoulders on top of your forearms. Your wrists, rather. Your forearms are parallel, your hands are quite wide. With your knees hip width apart, tuck your toes in. See how you go with this. If you can, push into the mat with your toes as you lift your bum up in the air. Walk your feet forwards a little bit into a dolphin pose. This is making sure your shoulders are on top of your wrists. Stay here, a few breaths. Intense posture, stretching out through the backs of the legs now, though. Pushing the heels down. And drop the knees down. Okay, we're going to sit back onto our heels if that's accessible for us, and then come into a hero pose. Roll the shoulders back, inhale the hands up nice and high, and then exhale the hands down in front of us. Come into tabletop. Straighten out your right leg, tuck your right toes in, push back into the right heel. Feel that immediate stretch through the lower calf. Okay, if you're okay here, stay here. You want a little bit of a challenge, lean into your right hand, lift your left arm up like we did in balancing cat, but reaching forwards with the fingers. And then come back down. Lean into your left hand, take your right hand out to the side. See if you can find a twist here or a lunge here, twisted lunge. And come back down. Back into tabletop, extend the left leg, tuck the toes in, push back into the heel. You feel that stretch through the lower calf. And then from here, ground down through your left hand, float your right arm up towards the side head, reaching forwards with the fingers, gauging your core now, still pushing back into that heel. And then dropping your right hand to the floor, lean into your right hand. If you've got the balance here, turn to the left, take the left hand up for a twist. And come back down. Come back onto your knees and come up to the back of your mat on your knees. I'm going to come side on here so you can see where we're going with this. You come up into Thunderbolt position, inhale the hands up nice and high, exhale down. Okay, hands to the floor, going to step the left leg out to the side, point the toes away, get the foot grounded, walk the hands backwards so you can come up.
So your right hip is on top of your knee. Inhale, both hands up. On a breath out, we're going to side bend to the right. So drawing the right hand down to the side of the body, left hand over the top. Feel that stretch through the side of the body. Breath in, lift up. And then side bend to the left. Taking that left hand down onto the thigh and then reaching up and over with the right hand. So the shoulders are still on the hips. You feel that stretch up through the hip, through the QL muscle. And come back. Take the hands down to the floor. And then tucking your right toes in, come forwards with your hands and then slowly sink the hip back towards your raised right heel. You feel that stretch on the inner left thigh here, your adductor thigh here. And release that tension in that leg. And slowly come back. Okay, come back onto the mat into a tabletop position. Walk the hands backwards, slowly come all the way up. Inhaling the hands up nice and high. And then exhale, float the hands down. Lean into your left foot, step the right foot off to the side, point the toes away so you can get good presence with the sole of the foot onto the floor. Walk the hands backwards. As you come upright, just check in that your hip is on top of your knee. You feel that really nice stretch, maybe not yet. Lift both hands up nice and high. And we take a side bend to the left, so dropping the left hand down to the side of the body, the right hand comes over the top, nice and flat through the body here. And inhale, both hands up, come upright. And then a side bend, dropping that right hand to the leg and then reaching up and over the top. For gate pose, feeling that stretch through the side of the body. Taking it nice and slowly at first and then building into it. Slowly come all the way up. And then exhale, float the hands down. Walking the hands forwards, tucking your left toes in. Breath in as you breathe out. Slowly taking the hips backwards. Find that adductor stretch on this side. And then come forwards. And back onto your knees. Okay, from here, we're going to tuck our toes in. We're going to come into a downward dog. Now, if this is going to be too challenging for your wrists, you can drop onto your forearms and do the dolphin we did earlier. But if you open your fingers, bring your arms slightly further forward to your shoulders, your arms are slightly wider than shoulder width apart, get good pressure, presence, grip on the mat. With your knees hip width apart, toes are tucked in. Push into the mat with your toes, lift your knees away from the mat. Well, now the weight's going down into the palms of the hands and the fingertips, and you take your hips high and then backwards. With your knees bent, pedal your legs, bend one knee and then bend the other knee just to stretch out through the backs of your legs. And then lift both heels upwards on your toes, bend your knees, stretch through the toe knuckles. Again, anytime this is too much, you can drop onto your forearms. And then straighten your legs, send your heels down. With a slow breath in, slowly bring the body level, come into a high press up plank position. You can drop onto your knees. You can find plank just for a moment here, looking down at the floor, straight between the hands, engaging your core, and then breath out onto your knees. Tops of the feet come on the mat. Slowly lower your chest and chin to the floor. When you come to grounded position here, take the arms down the side of the body again, and with a breath in, lifting your chest away, maybe your legs come off of the mat as well, drawing your hands down the side of the body, looking straight down at the floor beneath you, below you, into locust. Again, building strength up in your back.
and release. Hands either side of your ribs. Push up onto your knees and counter pose in child pose as you sit the hips back towards the heels, stretching out through your spine. Come up onto your knees. Take your knees to the edges of the mat. Roll down onto your side. And with your forearm on the floor, in line with the edge of the mat, and your elbow under your shoulder. With your knees bent, your knees stacked, your ankles stacked, hand on your hip. And we're going to take some clams here. So what we're going to do is lift that top leg up and down. Lift up and down. Up and down. And one more, lifting up, drawing it back. Feeling the effort needed in your glutes, your buttocks, nice and toned buttocks doing these clams. And then particularly when you hold it statically like this, drawing that knee back. Stay here, breathe nice and softly, and come back. Okay, good. And then we're going to move all the way up into a seated position and then come down on the opposite side. So assuming the position, forearm is in line with the edge of the mat, elbow is under shoulder, knees are bent, ankles are bent, flexed, stacked, good grounding, hand on the hip. 4 of these. So up, down. You can use the breath here. So breathe out, lift up. As you breathe out, pull your tummy button in. As you lift up, tighten, stabilizing everything around your pelvis. And hold here for the last one. But stay breathing, keeping your core pulled in, pulling that knee backwards, feeling that tension, that activation in your glutes. And release. Okay. What I'm going to do is push up now, come up to our bottoms, loosely cross our legs. Loosely cross our legs. And then lift the body upright. We're going to take a little core movement now. So I don't know why I said loosely cross your legs. What I really meant was take your feet in front of you. Okay, so in a seated position here with about 90 degrees flexion bend in your legs. Lean behind your sit bones, okay? And look forwards, look up. Draw your core in, reach your hands forward, breath in here. As you breathe out, float the hands up. Breathe in, bring the hands down. Breathe out, float the hands up. Breathe in, down. And keep going with the breath. And then bring your hands to your chest. Take a little twist to one side with your hands on your chest. Still breathing here, still leaning back, still pulling the core in. Come back to center and then turn to the other side. And come back. Okay, if that's really uncomfortable for your lower back, you can roll onto your lower back. Hug your knees here, squeeze and release your lower back. And then make your way back up into a seated position by either back rolling up, if that's there for you, or plant the feet down, roll to one side and push yourself up. Okay, now we loosely cross our legs. Loosely cross our legs. Find an upright position in your back if you can. You're going to take a twist to the right, taking the left hand onto the right knee. Your right hand behind you props the spine up, so you lift up through the spine and use that leverage to twist through your core and turning, looking back towards your right shoulder, feeling that squeeze in your torso. And thinking about your spine here. So rather than let your mind wander off onto thoughts of the day, think about the tensions in your body. Think about the orientation of the discs and the vertebrae in your neck, your cervical spine, 7 of them, taking your head to look backwards or towards your right shoulder. And then down in the lower part of your spine, your sacrum, the lumbar discs, actually pointing your sacrum forwards. So you're going to really good twist through the whole of that architecture.
come back. Take a moment in seated forward position to allow the spine just to simply come back into realignment. And then we go again to the other side. So right hand on left knee, your left hand behind props you up. Breathe in, lift up through the crown and head, and then gently twist through. Use that bind, twist through, squeeze through your spine, and also squeezing into your internal organs, massaging, squeeze in, squeezing toxins out, and then you hold in these nice compressive rotations, twists for a few breaths. Still breathing, still mobilizing the waste in your body. Tone in your body. Tone in the deep and superficial layers of your body. Okay, straighten the legs out in front of you. A little bit of a sit bone shuffle as you position your pelvis forwards. Forwards, pass out. Reach the hands up. Reach forward, sit and reach. Drop the hands down towards your legs and draw your chest forwards. I'll come side on. So nice and flat in the lower back. Try not to round. Nice sort of a leverage forwards, if you like. Find some tension in the back of your legs. Incidentally, if your knees are riding up, your hamstrings are really tight, that's okay. Let them ride up. Just go with what you've got. Pull your toes back, generate some tension in your body, and then keep your mind focused on that tension as you breathe softly, and try to breathe that tension away. Doesn't become evident at first, but after about 3 breaths, you'll find a degree of release as the nerve receptors in the tendons and the muscles let go a little bit. And you can stay with that release in a much less uncomfortable position, or you can always go a little bit deeper by teasing out more tension. Really nice way to finish a class off. And we'll counterpose that, coming down onto our lower back, bending our knees. Going to finish in bridge, hands down the side of the body, head and shoulders on the floor. Pull your tummy button flat down into the spine to flatten your lower back into the floor. Push into the floor with your feet as you drive the pelvis up into a back bend, keeping your knees parallel, looking up across your chest, your tummy, following the breath as it enters and leaves the body. Keeping the work going, keeping the pressure into the feet. Try to soften where you can. Try to lift your tailbone, your tummy button up as high as you can. You're feeling that nice compressive effect in your lumbar discs, building the strength up here. And release. Release to the floor. One more lift of the knees to hug your knees and drop your feet to the floor. Head and shoulders on the floor, arms out to the side of the mat. Slide your feet to the bottom corners of the mat. Let your feet flop out to the side. And just simply lie here now and stay connected with what's going on in your body. You might find there's nothing happening, but there's always something going on. So as you find the ground beneath you, feel the pressure points to start off with, feel the grounding, and then use the breath, particularly your breaths out, just to try to feel the sensation of gravity pulling you down into the floor, and allow the body to release and soften and let go with each breath out. And we just use this time, this moment, this space to keep our mind actually here now with the next breath, away from any surfacing, passing, rising thoughts. And that's the trick. It's what we aim to do, is keep our mind still and keep it anchored into the present moment by just naturally following our breath. There's 4 sensations, notable sensations in the breath. There's the coolness of the air and the flaring of the nostrils on the breath in, and you might want to explore these feelings. There's the warmth of the air leaving the nostrils, and you might want to explore this sensation. There's the passage of air through the nasal cavities in the back of the throat, and this is quite an interesting sensation to follow and observe. And there's the rise and fall of your tummy or your chest. You can go deeper and just check to see if one nostril appears broader than the other. Or you can indeed count your breath.
But whatever you do, keep your mind here focused, engaged on a single point and away from any distractions. And you can stay here as long as you like.